And this was something which was terrifying.
Sheer scale of the disaster and the suffering, it is really indescribable.
Pakistan, a land of soaring mountains, wild rivers, varied deserts, sparkling lakes, and sandy beaches, has for centuries been home to a diversity of cultures. Though resplendent in all its beauty, this rugged and at times inaccessible terrain can also be the cause of the people's largest burden. Access to the lowlands is practically impossible, and as such they are amongst the most vulnerable populations to nature's hazards. Early on the morning of October 8, 2005 at 8:52, a powerful earthquake struck the northern part of Pakistan. Measuring 7.6 on the Richter scale, the epicenter was located about 60 miles north-northeast of Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, causing major loss, destruction and devastation to tens of thousands of people. Many of the towns and villages close to the epicenter bore the full force of the earthquake and were virtually razed to the ground. In the hours that followed, surviving men, women and children searched for their loved ones. Watching their homes be crushed and their belongings buried, thousands of survivors were left empty-handed and shelterless, without food, water, clothing and vulnerable to the onset of the winter. Men, women and children, those with relatives and those left alone, slept with only the mountains for protection and placed their faith in the outside world to help provide their basic needs. The houses which managed to sustain the earthquake were no longer safe enough to be lived in. In the days that followed, Focused Humanitarian Assistance Pakistan played a critical role in reaching out to vulnerable communities in the remote valleys of Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Northwest Frontier Province. Through the rapid mobilization of search and rescue teams and the assistance of 4 Aga Khan Foundation helicopters, including 2 specially flown in from Tajikistan, Focus was able to provide relief to thousands of individuals and carry out medical evacuations for survivors needing urgent medical assistance.
The main concern was that winters are going to set in and the people will be out of shelter and warm clothes. Initially, we went with food, water and tents. More concern was that the people who were living at about 7,000 feet, it was difficult to go and land at those places. There was no place where you could make helipads. So what we were doing is, we were taking rations, we were taking tents and going from door to door. Where we see people, 2 or 3 houses, we drop 2 tents, where we see and drop food also there. And like this, we used to move from, we started in one valley and we used to come from the top till bottom.
And because we had helicopters, we had access to those areas that were not access to other transport. All the roads were destroyed the bridges. There was no bridges. So we started doing work where nobody could have gone. Alai, that was a place where nobody could go, Balakot. So the people were very much cooperative because they knew that we are bringing them relief goods.
In the immediate aftermath of the earthquake, Focus deployed its search and rescue teams at the fallen Margla Towers in Islamabad. As one of the few local emergency relief agencies, with a dedicated search and rescue team, Focus worked alongside Rapid UK and other international agencies to engage in search and rescue operations.
रैपिड यूके की टीम हमारे साथ आई, उनमें से कुछ मेंबर्स हमारे साथ आए, तो अचानक ऐसी इत्तला आई कि कोई मल्टी स्टोरी बिल्डिंग के ग्राउंड फ्लोर में एक औरत जो है ना दफन है, जिसकी आवाज़ सुनाई दी कि हमें इत्तला मिल गई, तो हम जो है ना जल्द अज जल्द हमारी टीम फोकस रेस्क्यू टीम जो है ना उस हादसे की जगह पर पहुंची. All guys come out. Anybody inside? Okay. All guys. उस औरत तक पहुंचने के लिए अब तकरीबन कोई 3 घंटे हमारे लगे. ड्रिलिंग करते हुए वो ग्राउंड में हम उसकी बेस तक पहुंचे जहाँ पर वो लेडी पड़ी थी. वो 65 इयर्स की लेडी थी. तो उसको हम लोगों ने अल्लाह की मेहरबानी से जो है ना लाइफ के साथ जिंदा हम लोगों ने उन्हें निकाल दिया और हमारे लिए एजाज़ की बात है.
The most affected areas were the 5 districts of North West Frontier Province and the 4 districts of Azad, Jammu and Kashmir. Over 70,000 people lost their lives, of which 35,000 were children who were at school at the time the earthquake hit. Most critical infrastructure such as schools, colleges and hospitals were destroyed and now require immediate rehabilitation. After immediate rescue efforts, Focus began daily relief operations. 1,500 volunteers from around the country assisted in organizing and packaging vital items for survivors. These volunteers worked tirelessly around the clock to ensure that much needed supplies of food, water, shelter, quilts, blankets, shawls, jackets, shoes, medical supplies and other survival items were transported to the affected areas. Focus also collaborated with the Pakistan Army and helped to reduce relief items from army bases.
Focus decided through our Khan Development Network that we operate with the army because army was the only institution who had all the resources and proper plan, and later on we found that that was the right decision because individually you wouldn't have been able to go anywhere.
In total, over 100 metric tons of supplies reached those most in need. On return journeys, the helicopters carried over 1,000 survivors in need of urgent medical care to safer health facilities.
In addition to the disaster management or the disaster response, so it's a framework which is really at 2 levels, in the sense that on one end we are looking at just disaster management, things like responding in the event of a disaster. But I think it is important also to inbuilt ways to address the vulnerabilities of the people, which can only come about if one is also addressing disaster risks.
With winter fast approaching and the possibility of temperatures falling as low as -5 degrees Celsius raised against season, to provide winterized shelter, blanket and quilts to the thousands of people living in temporary shelters and those completely without shelter. In Chicama Valley, Focus ensured that children had winter jackets to keep them warm during the coming months. Actually vulnerable after any disaster are the children. As young spirits, they lose their families, school friends, and in addition, they lose their toys, games and school materials. To contribute to bringing hope and a semblance of normality back into the life of young boys and girls, Focus provided school bags, indoor and outdoor games, sports equipment and material for embroidery, which all offered a brief respite from the tragedy they faced. Later on, a team of specially trained psychosocial care workers from the Aga Khan Health Service provide counseling for the children. Agencies of the Aga Khan Development Network, including the Aga Khan Health Services and the Aga Khan University Hospital, provided teams of doctors to provide emergency relief medical assistance to survivors. Relief organizations, governments and non-governmental agencies came from all over the world to Pakistan's assistance. During the relief operations, Focus Pakistan escorted various government and donor community representatives to the earthquake-affected areas, including the UNHCR Goodwill Ambassador Angelina Jolie. Ambassador Jolie visited the affected area and spoke to the survivors. On June 30th, 2006, the efforts of Focus were recognized by the government and the President of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, General Pervez Musharraf, conferred the award Sitara Isar upon those who had contributed outstanding service to the rescue and relief efforts. Focus was fortunate to be one of these organizations and was bestowed with the honor in a special investiture ceremony at the Diwan-e-Sadr in Islamabad.
Mr. Amin Dosa, Chairman, Focus Humanitarian Assistance Group, Aga Khan Development Network, Pakistan.
लिमिटेड जो सोर्सेज थे हम लोगों ने ट्रेनिंग हासिल की हुए थे अब अल्लाह की मेहरबानी से जो है ना हम लोगों ने काफ़ी एक्सपर्टीज हासिल की है दूसरे टीमों से रैपिड व्यू के अंडर से
To say that we are now better prepared would be a hasty statement. But the important thing is that having been through this tragedy, the things which has come about is now we can at least identify our weaknesses and the ways we could address it to sort of overcome those weaknesses.
Focus workड़ा खियम दाद दे त्रिना खुशाल तमाम अफराद दे दाता वंद खल्क़ यादनू ये हर यौ सड़े ये शुक्रिया अदा कवी नाजार शमजार खल्क़द फुकसिदारीना जार शमजार खल्क़द फुकसिदारीना हर मुतासिर लरा खुराक खबर कवी नाजार शमजार खल्क़द फुकसिदारीना जार शमजार खल्क़द फुकसिदारीना